People heal.
Welcome back to Sports Day. It's certainly been it's been a considerably significant week for the Adelaide Football Club. Tim Silvers is a name that many of you would know, long-time Chief Operating Officer at the Hawthorn Football Club. He's been in the role as Adelaide boss since March, and he joins us live on Sports Day during a fairly difficult time. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks for putting me on the show. Cheers.
Tim, can I just ask you, first and foremost, this investigation, when it came to its head and there was a penalty on the horizon, was it ultimately the AFL or the football club that decided it?
Look, the investigation came about probably two and a half weeks ago, and it went through a thorough process. It was self-reported by the Adelaide Football Club, so we put it forward to the AFL Integrity, and they ran the process from then on, and it was important. It was independent. It then got to a point where it was to a conciliation, and my understanding was at that conciliation, working with a number of different stakeholders, including the AFLPA and the AFL and the complainants, that the penalty was worked through and agreed between all those parties.
Tim, did Taylor originally claim that he didn't make the racial slur and then change his statement to the investigators?
He would, when we went through this process, as I said before, the AFL self-reported, the Adelaide Football Club self-reported to the AFL, and they went through the process. So this was independent from the Adelaide Football Club, and we're not allowed to comment on the investigation, as it is part to do with Rule 35 and the peak process that we can't comment on the specifics of the investigation.
Right, but you're not denying that he changed his statement?
No, we can't comment because we're not part of that investigation.
Can I ask you, Tim, how you came at the decision and what advice you got? Because clearly you would have had advice to produce the video and have Tex apologise via video, which has, I guess it's fair to say, received some negative criticism.
With Taylor, we've been working with him since the mediation finished on Thursday night, and he came and fronted the club and the playing group, the Indigenous cohort, on Friday morning. And we were working with him to potentially speak to the public thereafter, but he just wasn't in a state. He was mentally exhausted and wasn't in the state to front the media at that time. So what we did as a club, we made the decision that our leaders, both myself and Matthew Nix, would front the media.
Yep.
Taylor had owned it internally, and we think we're really strong in our positioning on that day. And we've been working with Taylor probably to look after his mental health and well-being, for him to be in a position to speak publicly. Yesterday was a video apology, and we think that's a step in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's a time in the not-too-distant future, I think, when he'll be able to, I suppose, talk more openly. And we've given him some time. He's taken some time off with his family and just been able to reset. And I think when he gets back, he'll be able to publicly speak.
Sam McClure and Jerry Healy on Sports Day, joined by Tim Silvers, the CEO of Adelaide. We've got Lee Matthews in the studio in Queensland. Lee, just jump in at any time that you'd like to ask a question. Tim, just before Lee, you and your coach, Matty Nix, who've both been really impressive in the media, have both been fairly non-committal about whether Taylor will play next year. Is that club-driven, or is it you also think there's a chance Taylor might not want to continue?
It was just so raw at the time. Matty Nix wasn't probably across that it had even been part of an investigation, so you saw some of his emotions on the Friday, and it's sort of changing day by day. We've got to confront this. We've got to confront it head on, and it's a bit of a cultural piece in how are our players dealing with it, how are our Indigenous players dealing with it, how are our past Indigenous players dealing with it. So it's a sort of watch this space. So we've been non-committal for probably a reason, and things will evolve. We're hopeful that time will heal all wounds, but we've just got to go through the process, and it's not just about Taylor. It's affected a heap of people, not even just inside our club, but outside the club. So we've got to manage that first and foremost, and then make decisions on next season.
Tim, just I guess on the basis as Club Crows CEO, you're trying to do what's best for the club first and foremost, and then obviously it flows down from that. But it's one of those issues where would seem a satisfactory outcome in the short term is probably impossible. So you're almost fighting you're fighting an impossible task. It must be frustrating.
To say it's been challenging would be an understatement, but at these times, you just need to lead from the front and make decisions as you see best fit with a club first philosophy. And we're putting our people first, and it's not necessarily Taylor. So we have to focus on them, like I said, understand their feelings, their thoughts, and how it's impacted them, and then we think we've got to make really strong decisions that are for our people. So we'll make that when the time's right.
Tim, do the comments from your football director, Mark Rasciuto, referring to it as casual racism align with the values of your club?
Well, what I would say around that, and we've, like I said before, we're really strong in our condemnation for racism. It's not part of our club. It's not part of the AFL industry, and it's not part of the wider community. And what I've found, speaking for the last sort of 5 days about it, you need to be really careful in how you speak about this. But what I will say on behalf of the Adelaide Football Club, including Mark and the directors, that we don't stand for any racism in our club or in our sport.
But you think if Mark had his time again, he wouldn't have made those comments?
I think he might be a little bit more careful with his words, but his intentions are good.
Can I ask you, just moving on to another topic, because I don't think there's too much more that we can ascertain from you. I think it's going to be a long story. It's going to be a sad story, and we can only hope that you can somehow find a positive where none appear to exist at this stage. But Tom Lynch, I was surprised, given he plays so well on the weekend, that you're not going to renew his contract for the ongoing seasons. What was behind that decision?
Oh, look, part of our list management strategy is that we've committed to a rebuild, and we've got to stay the course. And we've made the decision, and it's tough on Tom because he's a great player. He's been a great player for the club for a long period of time. He's been part of our leadership group for over 5 years, and he's a connector on the field and a connector off the field, I find. But we've committed to a rebuild. We'd like to give opportunities to our younger forward line, with Darcy Fogarty coming through. We've got Himmelberg, we've got Riley Tilthorpe, and we made a tough decision on Tom that he won't be offered a playing contract for next year, but he's got the right values that we'd like to potentially stick around. And, if he's not playing on at AFL level, I'm sure he might be able to find a role at the Adelaide Football Club.
So do you necessarily trade him? Are you doing this to get a draft pick, or is he able to go anywhere he likes for free?
He'll be able to go anywhere he likes for free.
Do you think that he'll get picked up by another club, Tim?
Oh, look, he's a great person, and like I said before, got strong values. For him as a person, I'd love him to get another opportunity. Yes, and if he doesn't, like I said before, I think he's a bit of a coach in waiting. He's coached our AFLW team. He's been preparing for his next phase, so I think he's really well equipped to take that next step out of footy when that time is.
You raise the issue of the AFLW. What do you think about this notion that's being currently pushed about quotas? Because I can't quite work out how that actually works.
In terms of quotas around gender-based, having so many female coaches within the system?
Yes, but I assume that means female coaches at the top in the system.
Look, I'm probably not across the specific details, but I've seen the sort of rhetoric on social media over the last little while with Peter Searle not coaching at St Kilda and another Nick Del Santo, I think, coming in. So it means there's no female coaches. But I think as an industry, the preparedness and the responsibility to develop female coaches needs to start and needs to commence now, because it's the important part of the game, and it's been the growth part of our game for the last 5+ years. And you've seen what that's done at grassroots level, and you've seen how much the elite level has improved. So I think there's an onus on the industry to find ways to improve it. Is it through a quota system? I'm not sure, but if there's, and the AFL industry in terms of financials, we've been strapped for cash, especially going through the COVID times. Whether the AFL could find subsidies and allowances to provide for that, I think would be a step in the right direction. Yeah,
I think everyone agrees with that. We want to see many more women involved, particularly in the coaching business. But I think, and Lee, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this. I'm not sure how you actually pinpoint who gets who gets which coach if it's a quota system. I think you either go the evolution model and just know that because more people are involved, you're going to eventually more female coaches will emerge, or you go everybody has to appoint a female coach and the AFL fund it.
Well, yeah, in terms of the senior coaching role of the AFLW, I mean, because really, I mean, I know there's been some women's football over the decades, but really at the elite level, the women's football is very, very new. So once the sort of the current players, the Daisy Pearces, for instance, those kind of the players that have been they're more senior in the women's competition, that they might be the next coaches over the next decade. And so I think, hopefully, Tim, that there would be more candidates emerging. Beck Goddard obviously coached the Crows in the first year in the existence, that it will happen naturally, but maybe the development pathways have to be developed as well, of course.
Yeah, and what I could probably add to that is that the Crows have sort of heard what's been said in the industry, and we've had Matthew Clark, who's been a very successful coach as the head coach of our AFLW team, that we're about to appoint 2 female line coaches in the next month. And, we think that's a step in the right direction for development of female talent in the industry.
Tim, we appreciate you coming on. Good luck for the rest of the season.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for your support.
Tim Silver's there, Chief Executive of the Adelaide Football Club.